So, what up, YouTube? First off, today we're looking at the proven conspiracy that built the Fed and destroyed the middle class, a deep dive by Tom Bilyeu. This is Tom, the guy with the glasses on the screen, not this guy with the glasses on the screen. You know what I mean? Anyways, we're going to let him introduce this, and I'm going to do a dab.
True story. 6 men representing 25% of the world's wealth meet on a private train. No last names, no press.
Did you see that? I'll go back real quick. J.P. Morgan, Rothschild, Schiff, Warburg, Rockefeller.
25% of the world's wealth meet on a private train. No last names, no press, no records. If anyone asks, they're going duck hunting in Georgia. But they're not going duck hunting.
No, they're not.
Bank, a private one that prints money out of thin air and loans it to the government for a fee, interest charged on every dollar. This is the true story of how modern banking was born and inflation along with it. This is the story of how your savings get siphoned, how every boom and bust for the last 100 plus years was scripted to move wealth from the poor and middle class to the wealthiest few in a system hidden in plain sight. What they created is the foundation of our broken financial system. They created the Federal Reserve, and it changed the world forever. This is the ultimate thriller, the real life story of how the system became rigged against us all, and the man who exposed it by writing one of the most dangerous books of the 20th century. It's called The Creature from Jekyll Island.
And the funniest thing is I never heard of this book until I came across this video. But I knew all about the Fed already. I knew how it worked. I knew all sorts of things about the Fed, right? But I'd never heard of this book.
If you've never heard of this book, that means that the bankers and politicians are doing their job. Like the Matrix, you're not supposed to.
I guess to some degree that the system is doing its job, because like you gotta think, I lived in the system, totally brainwashed, just like you, for 28 years.
To see it, merely live inside of it. Countless people recommended G. Edward Griffin's masterpiece to me as I tumbled down the rabbit hole of how money actually works, but nothing prepared me for actually reading it. It is a masterclass on cause and effect that attempts to map the modern economy from its inception on Jekyll Island through to today. I really doubt that history is going to remember the Creature from Jekyll Island as being perfectly accurate, and there's no doubt that at times it strays from the details of what's provable conspiracy into the lane of conspiracy theory, but I've yet to find a...
Again, the word conspiracy theorist was coined by the United States government to cover up a conspiracy called Watergate. To continue to use the phrase in the manner that was designed by... See, this is why I am the outcast, out everything. Everyone is talking about these truths. The only issue is while they're talking about the truth, they are also manipulating the truth because they don't know about language manipulation. Hence why he just said conspiracy theory the way he said it. It's because that's how the government programmed you to say it.
Model that has higher predictive validity. Here's the core thesis of Griffin's The Creature from Jekyll Island. The modern economy is like a computer system with a precisely engineered flaw that creates a backdoor that allows its creators to reach into virtually any bank account in the world and steal money. Now, I have no doubt that that sounds impossible to you, right?
It is not impossible. That's actually what's happened. Everyone has their money able to be stolen from them, called taxation, and it's already taken from you.
Now, on behalf of author G. Edward Griffin, I'm going to make that case today.
And that's why Bitcoin is so highly important, because the Bitcoin you have cannot be taken from you. Let's just say if someone killed you, right? Let's just say if they didn't get the information about where your codes were, then they just wasted the ability to get your Bitcoin. And then now your Bitcoin is now lost forever, because no one knows where your codes are and you are no longer alive. So you see how it's very difficult to get someone's information on Bitcoin.
That the economic monster born on Jekyll Island is a machine designed...
But neither here or there. We're not talking about Bitcoin. We're talking about the Fed today. Let's stick to the subject.
to turn your labor into political control and banking profits. I'm going to outline exactly how the machine socializes losses across all of us, but privatizes profit for only a few. It's a machine that guarantees that bankers and politicians can't lose, and the taxpayer always picks up the tab.
Taxation is theft. Comprehend the Fed was created to subvert the ability for you to make a living.
Heads they win, tails we lose. Griffin calls our modern monetary system a bailout engine, where the goal is for banks to get bailed out. Having a fragile economy that needs to get bailed out is
remember,
the very
2008.
point. Now, if that sounds insane, it is, but it's also accurate, and I'm going to prove it step by step. So buckle up, because we're going to walk through how Griffin believes we were duped, how the machine works, and how we escape its clutches. And if you're like me, it's going to make you very, very mad, especially part 5, which is
I didn't get to part 5. I only got to part 3 or the beginning of 4 or something. And then I registered that I wasn't recording, so I stopped watching. See what I'm saying? So let's go.
Part 1, the birth of a secret monster. It began in darkness, November 1910. A private rail car waits in Hoboken, New Jersey.
And also comprehend, people, that this is just one part of a very tangled web of a story of how the manipulation and how everyone has been duped actually began. It's actually far older than the Fed. This is just one like slithering arm tentacle of that system.
Jersey. One by one, the most powerful bankers and politicians in the world arrive in secret. They board quietly with fake identities and a bogus cover story. They have strict instructions to tell no one of their true purpose for gathering. Their mission: build a central bank the American people would never knowingly vote for by crafting a bill wrapped in comforting language most will never understand.
Where
the train
you get
rolls south.
Imagine the big beautiful bill by Trump, right? It's the big beautiful bill, blah blah blah, or whatever it's called, right? Yet it's probably over 1,000 pages long, and I'm guaranteeing you there's shit in there that people that are voting for it, like, yeah, let's do it. Those hardcore people, I'm telling you right now, they're all being duped. They're dumb. If you're voting for it or government in general, you're being duped, because you should be governing yourself and you should not be allowing strangers to govern you.
Destination Jekyll Island, Georgia, a private resort owned by J.P. Morgan. Yes, that J.P. Morgan. Inside a luxurious mansion, over 9 days, a conspiracy unfolds. Not a conspiracy theory, an actual conspiracy that still controls our lives today. Just 6 of the men on.
And there, like, I guess he said it kind of correctly right there about conspiracy theory, but still, it was still coined by the government to cover up and try to make people sound crazy for telling on the government about things that they're doing wrong.
Board this train control a quarter of the entire world's wealth. They represent the biggest banks in America at the time: J.P. Morgan, Rockefeller, Kuhn Loeb, and National City. One of the men, Paul Warburg, is fresh from Germany's central banking system, and he knows exactly how much.
Think about that. Whoa. Actually think about that. Warburg was a German banker that came over to America right before World War I. And then they created the Fed, and then due to that, created the need to have a world war to get everybody to take money from the Fed. Bro. So, like, essentially, creating the Fed put the whole world in debt by forcing the majority of the world to be in a war that forced most of the countries of the world to borrow from America and the Federal Reserve, that was printing money based on nothing, even though they say the guys of gold standard, and I'm sure we were on the gold standard for some point of time, but not really. Do you know what I'm saying?
wealth the right economic machine can transfer from the masses to an elite few. But the machine requires something the voting public will never go for: a banking cartel that works together to control as much of the economy as possible. The mission of the meeting is to find a way to disguise this cartel from the taxpayers so that they will vote for it. Just 3 years earlier,
we didn't have taxpayers. So see how he's also, again, manipulating the language. He doesn't get it. I get it. He doesn't get it. I'm just explaining, okay? I'm not throwing shade at Tom. Tom's cool. I like his show. I'm just saying, he's saying, there was no taxpayer before the Fed. Because we didn't pay taxes. Comprehend, from 1776 to 1913, the citizens of America did not pay income tax or any form of tax. It's the whole reason we went to war with Britain, so we didn't have to pay income tax or any form of taxation, right? So there was no taxpayer before 1913.
In the panic of 1907, the groundwork for this moment was laid. United States copper stock price had collapsed, triggering a series of bank runs and the failure of the Knickerbocker Trust Company. That caused a cascade of panic that
Knickerbocker. I just wanted to say it because it's a really cool name.
spread to other banks and trusts, causing a nationwide liquidity shortage. People screamed out for stability. JP Morgan steps in and orchestrates several private banks to provide the liquidity needed to stabilize the system. The trip to Jekyll Island was designed to leverage this moment, to flip the system and create a structure by which...
think how crazy we are. Think how crazy we are as a society that we allowed all our money to be put in the hands of a private few people.
The people financially backstop the banks instead of the banks backstopping the people. The legislation they draft in secret becomes known as the Federal Reserve Act of 1913. They planted it with politicians, whispered it through the media. The country thought it was voting for stability, but what it ultimately got was servitude. This is why knowledge and understanding is so important. The Constitution is clear. Only Congress may coin money. Do people really think that section is about metal? It seems so clear to me that that section of the Constitution is about the creation of money. And yet, through the Federal Reserve Act of 1913, Congress gave private banks the ability to create money out of thin air from absolutely nothing and charge people interest for the privilege of using this money from nothing.
Clogged,
and the deeper people go into debt, the more money the banks earn.
This is tripping me out, bro.
The deeper people go into debt, the more banks earn. If you've ever wondered why the U.S. government is so deeply in debt, $36 trillion and climbing rapidly.
Climbing rapidly. Look, I'm going to show you something very interesting about the U.S. debt clock. Hold on, let's go here. Right? Interesting thing about the U.S. national debt clock. Look, this is the debt clock. Look at all the numbers. Look how they're all in constant state of ticking upwards. This one's even ticking upwards, but guess what? This one that's supposedly supposed to help us is not making anything on this chart tick downwards any. Do you see what I'm saying? So this is actually efficiently not efficient. Because if it's saving the taxpayer $4,582 and the taxpayer owes $323,051 because of children and other assets and other reasonings why one taxpayer is 3 times a citizen, because one citizen, a child, owes this much money. Comprehend, every child owes this much money the moment they're born. $107,000. They just can't pay it. So this is given to the parents. Do you see what I'm saying? And the average child in America is 2.5 children. Do you see what I'm saying? Okay. Now, the interesting thing is about this chart is if you go over here and go to 2029, the Doge thing disappears and we're at $46 trillion in debt. Hence, this is just in 4 years, bro.
At the time of this recording, the Federal Reserve creates their product by hitting a few keys on a keyboard, and it is the ultimate get-rich-quick scheme. That is the creature that was born on Jekyll Island. And bankers and politicians will do
And that's why we're in a forever debt system. It has to keep printing money. It has to keep making more debt.
anything to protect this monster. The Federal Reserve is the most powerful institution in America, yet almost no one can explain how it works. Look at this clip of one of Biden's
It's
economic
so funny right here.
advisors trying to wrap his head around it.
Well, they
Now, it's not
the,
an accident that virtually no one
um,
understands this system. It was designed that way, created in secret, passed under false pretenses, and sold to the public as salvation. But in reality, it was the foundation of an entirely new financial order, one where your labor becomes a form of money that can be stolen from you at any time by simply printing more of it. That's what inflation is. The backdoor that allows politicians and bankers to reach into your bank account without needing to ask your permission. No legislation needed, no vote, just the Federal Reserve Act. To understand how big of a deal the exploit that we call inflation is, we have to go through part 2, the magic trick, how money really works. Banks create money out of thin air. The Federal Reserve simply decides to make
Pretty
more.
much.
They don't have to mine gold or rare
And they don't have to do anything. They don't have to tell anyone about it. They just make it when they decide to make it. They can make, think of it this way, bruh. How many people are in this country? 300 and with the, boom of illegal aliens and I don't think anyone's illegal anywhere. I think everyone is a part of Earth, and all lines on the map are fictional lines we created for no reason other than to be divided. Everyone is equal. Everyone deserves life. Everyone deserves a place to live. Everyone deserves food. Everyone deserves to be clothed. Do you see what I'm saying? All necessary things to stay alive should already be a right. Like freedom of speech is a right, but I don't have the right to make sure I have food. I could die if I don't make sure I have money. So I could bitch and moan about not having food and not having money and do that until I was dead with no one to help me, because food by any other isn't a right. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, it's a privilege. How is that?
earth metals. They just type numbers into a screen, and now dollars suddenly exist. Not earned, not saved, just created. And here's the punchline. The semi-private bank known as the Federal Reserve turns a profit by lending this free out of thin air money to the government, charging them, and by extension, you, the taxpayer, interest. And the worst part, every new bit of free money they create steals some of the money you already had in the form of inflation, which lowers your purchasing power. Welcome to what Griffin calls the Mandrake mechanism, his term for the Federal Reserve's greatest illusion, making you believe you can get new money for free when in reality, free money takes from everyone, but only gives to the rich. Ever wonder why the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer? It is a direct result of the Mandrake mechanism made possible by the Federal Reserve Act of 1913, the bill that was architected on Jekyll Island during our mysterious meeting between bankers and politicians. Here's an analogy that I hope will make all of this clear. Money is like coffee. It packs a punch. And like coffee, it has two parts. Part one, the caffeine. This is known in money terms as purchasing power. What does a dollar actually buy you? That's all that matters. And two, the water. This is inflation, aka money printing. The more water you add, the weaker the coffee. The more money you print, the more expensive things become, because printing money is like adding more water to the coffee. You have to drink more cups to get the same buzz. Griffin calls this the Mandrake mechanism after Mandrake the magician, a comic strip character from the 40s, who could make people see anything he wanted them to see.
Get it?
Politicians in the Fed want you to see free money and financial stability, but that's the illusion. The truth is, money becomes weaker with every dollar printed, and the people who benefit from that are the ones who control who gets the money and who earns interest by loaning out this free money. Most people think banks lend out money they already have. They don't. When you take a loan, the bank doesn't hand you someone else's deposit. It creates new money.
Do you get what I'm saying? Get what he's saying? Get what Tom's laying down here?
Water goes into the coffee. You can fill more cups, but you don't get any more caffeine. And since the extra cups are actually given to other people, usually the government, your supply of the caffeine goes down, even though the number of cups of coffee you have remains the same. There's
Or
just
goes
more
up.
water. And eventually, all you have is water with a splash of coffee. It's the difference between a shot of espresso and an espresso cup full of mostly water. To make this even crazier, once the fake money is added to the system, it will end up in banks because, well, that's what people do with money that they don't spend. And what happens when the fake money
So do you see what I'm saying? All the money eventually circulates back to the people that created it.
hits the bank? Do they put it in a vault in case you want to come and take it out? No, they do not. They loan out the fictional money and charge more interest on it. This creates more money. It adds more water to the coffee because they loan out your money while still owing it to you. So two people now own that money at the same time. And if two people can spend the same dollar, that dollar has just doubled. This process is called fractional reserve banking. It's how the banking system
It is insane.
works, and it means that banks are allowed to lend far more money.
Look at this chart. Let's break it down a little. Fractional reserve banking. Depositor puts money into a bank. Others deposit accounts. Reserve. Hold a small fraction of the deposit as a reserve. Investment. The remaining portion of the deposit is used to grow revenue. Grow revenue. It's not growing revenue.
Than they actually have. In theory, they're supposed to keep a fraction of deposits in reserve just in case you want some, but in practice, the ratio is now meaningless. As of 2020, the percentage of deposits that the banks are legally required to keep in reserves is 0. So what if you want to withdraw your money? If a few people do it, fine. Even though banks aren't required to keep any cash in reserves, most of them keep some just in case. Not much, because they make their money by lending it out. So if a lot of
Right. So do you see what I'm saying? They create money through the bank. The bank makes money by needing to create more money. It's astronomically crazy, bro. Like how insane. Like think about this. Everyone goes along with this. That makes everyone that goes along with this insane.